Welcome to this predicted paper from On Maths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our On Maths site. On Maths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! So we need to first of all understand what a cube number is. So a cube number is the answer to when you get three integers or whole numbers and we multiply them by themselves three times. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, and 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So 1, 8, 27, 64, 125 are all cube numbers, and it goes on forever. And this question's asked us to find all the odd, or an odd, cube number that is smaller than 100. So it has to be odd, so that gets rid of the 8 and the 64. And it has to be smaller than 100, so that gets rid of the 125. So I can either write down 1 would be a fine answer, or 27. I'm going to go for 1. To convert between meters and centimeters, we times by 100. So we do 12.31 times by 100, which would be 1,231 centimeters. There are 10 squares in total, so each square is worth 1/10. And if we count all of the shaded squares, we notice that in total there are 7 shaded squares. So that's 7 lots of 1/10 or 7/10. For us to create the smallest number, we need to pick the smallest digits at the start of the number. So the smallest digit is 3, then the next smallest digit is 4, next smallest digit is 5, then the next smallest digit is 8. But it wants it to be an odd number, and this is an even number. So we have to move that 8 forward 1 and have that 5 at the end. So the smallest odd number is 3,485. I'm going to start just by writing down the number. And we're asked to round this to 3 significant figures, and basically what that means is starting from the left hand side, it's 3 numbers that we want. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do our line after that third number. And you start counting the first non-zero digit. So the first digit there was 2, so we started counting. Now all the numbers to the left, or sorry, to the right, so these numbers here, will all turn to 0. But before that happens, we look at this number. Now this number, if it's 5 or more, it moves this number up by 1. If it's less than 5, that number stays the same. Now it is 5 or more, because it is 5. So it's not going to be 207, it's going to be 208. Now, a common mistake is that students write down 208. No, all the numbers to the right of that line turn to 0. So it would be 0, 0, 0. So it would be 20,000 or 208,000 exactly. So we can either use the calculator to work out what 1.2 cubed is, or we can do 1.2 times 1.2 times 1.2. Now if you want to use the calculator to go straight there, you're going to press or type in 1.2, and then normally there's a button that looks like this, X with a little 3, okay, and that will give you the answer. Or if you're not sure how to do that, you can times it by itself 3 times and you get the answer 1.728. To find a coordinate, what we can do is we can start in the middle and we work out how far across we have to go. And here we have to go 2 across, so the x coordinate is 2. Then we find out how far upwards or downwards we have to go. And here we can go, well, we have to go 3 downwards, so that's going to be -3. So we first of all look at the x coordinate, the 2, then the y coordinate, -3, along the corridor, up, or in this case down the stairs. So 55% is the same as 55 over 100. And what I can do is I can divide top of the fraction by 5. And so that is going to equal 11 over 20. Now in total there are 20 squares here because there's 5 across and 4 down. 5 times 4 is 20. And if there's 20 squares and we're looking to shade in 11/20ths, it's just going to be 11 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Something to realise in this table we're given in this question is that the triangle has 3 sides, quadrilateral 4, pentagon 5, and hexagon 6. And that number is just 2 less than the number of faces. So basically, if you've got the number of sides, you add 2. So 4 plus 2 is 6, 5 plus 2 is 7, and 6 plus 2 is 8. So if we've got 20 sides, and we just do the same thing, so we're just adding 2, then we should have 22 faces. So our answer is 22. So a composite bar chart is where you'll stack the bar charts on top of each other. So we're going to start with this 12 here. And so I'm just going to do a bar up to 12. And these lines go up in 2s, so it would be there. And then we're going to do this females. So we've done the males, we're going to do the females. And the females is only going to be 1 high, because they're going up in 2s. And we need a way of showing male or female. So what I'm going to do is just shade the female there, and I'm going to just draw a key. I'm going to say if it's not shaded, it's males. And if it is shaded, it's females. Okay, next we're going to do the 8 and the 4. So what you can do is just do the whole thing, then split it afterwards. So it would be like that. Shade in the females. And then finally we've got a 4 and a 12. And let's shade in the females there. Now don't spend forever on your shading, as long as it's clear which one's male and which one's female. So we're going to start by writing 5 over 9 as a decimal, and to do that we just need to do 5 divided by 9, which will be 0.5 recurring. And to convert between a decimal and a percentage, we just times by 100. So we're going to get that 0.5 recurring, and we're going to times it by 100, and that will equal 55.555 recurring. And to the nearest percent, that's going to be 56, because that 5 will move that 5 up by 1. The first thing to do when working out what angle things need to be on a pie chart is to add up the frequencies. So we're going to do 14 plus 7 plus 3, and we find out that that's 24. Then we're going to find the angle that one item would be. So one item is going to be, well, there are 360 degrees in a triangle, and there are 24 items. So we're going to do 360 divided by 24, and that gives us 15 degrees. So each item is worth 15 degrees, or will take up 15 degrees. So to find out the angle for red, well, we've got 14 items, times it by 15, and that will give us 210 degrees. And we're just going to times each of these by 15, which will be 105, and the final one times 15 is 45 degrees. Add them up and they add up to 360, which is good. They need to add up to 360. So we got our protractor, rest it on the pie chart. Now we know 180 is down here, so the first thing we're going to do is just mark that on, because the first angle is going to be 210, so we know that's 180 so far, so I'm going to turn my protractor around, and from 180, 210 will be another 30, so I'm just going to plot that on, and then I'm going to join it up. So start at the center and join that up, and we're going to stop when the circle stops. Then to do 105, we're going to put our protractor in the middle, and we're going to look at 105, which will be up here, and then we're just going to join it up with a straight line. And then we're just going to check the last angle, and so if I put my protractor on it, and it is 45 degrees. Perfect. Now, an important step to not miss is you need to label them. And so the first one is red, the second one is blue, and then the final one is other. To answer this question, we basically need to find the lowest common multiple of the 10 minutes here and the 15 minutes here. So we're going to start off just by doing the 10 and 15 times table, so it'd be 10, 20, 30, and 15 times table with 15 and 30. So the lowest common multiple is 30. So after half an hour, these buses will sync up. They'll both leave at the same time, and all buses start service at 9 o'clock. So it will be half an hour after 9 o'clock, which will be 9:30. We've got to first of all identify whose graph is whose. So looking at the green one hits the y-axis at 6, and it says here that Taxico charges an initial £6 fee, which would tally that up, and AB Taxi says that its initial charge is 12, which is on our graph there. So AB Taxi is blue and Taxico is green. Now it says which is the cheapest to travel 20 miles. So what we're going to do is go to 20 and draw a line up from 20. You can see that the blue line is actually lower than the green line. Okay, it's cheaper. So the blue line is cheaper, and the blue line is owned by AB Taxi. So to simplify 10 to 22 to 26, I'm going to have to find something that I can divide the 10, the 22 and the 26 by. The biggest number I can do that for is 2. So if you look, 10 can be divided by 5 but nothing else can, 22 can be divided by 11 but nothing else can, and 26 by 13 but nothing else can. The only thing we can divide all of them by is 2. So that will be 5 to 11 to 13. So the answer is 5 to 11 to 13. Okay, first of all we need to work out what the interior angles would add up to. So the sum of the interior angles is equal to n minus 2 times 180. Now n is the amount of sides, but it says it has 5 sides, so it would be 5 take away 2, which is 3, and then times 180, which would be 540. So we know it will add up to 540. So all we need to do is get that 540 and take away all the angles that we know. So the 118, the 84, the 108, and the 151. And when you do that, you get the answer of 79. Mode just means the most common or most frequent, and modal is exactly the same. It's just the most frequent amount of coins we're looking for. So the students who had 3 coins in their pockets came up 15 times. Students had 4 coins in their pocket, well there were 16 of them. There were 15 students who had 5 coins, 17 students who had 6 coins, and 12 students who had 7 coins. So the most frequent amount of coins a student has in their pocket will be 6, because it happens 17 times, which is more than any other amount of coins. So x can be any number that is where the line is. So if I show, x can be anywhere along here, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to write that x can be anything that's greater than -9. Okay, so it could be -8, it could be 0, it could be 100, but it can't be -10. Now, it's a filled in dot, so x can actually be -9 as well. To find the average rate of petrol usage, which I'm just going to call rate, what we're going to do is we're going to get the distance travelled by the car, and we're going to divide that by the amount of fuel used, so the volume of the fuel used. So the distance was 135 kilometres. The volume of the fuel used was 9 litres. We do 135 divided by 9, which is 15. So it's 15, and this was in kilometres, and this was in litres. So it's going to be 15 kilometres per litre. You will need to use a paper and pencil to do this physically. You can't really do this on the computer. And make sure you have a ruler and a compass. So the first thing we're going to do is draw our 10 centimetre line. And we're going to get our compass and we're going to measure the 6 centimetres for the left hand side. So we're going to measure 6 centimetres on our compass. And we're going to just put a little arc there. We're going to do the same on the other side for 8 centimetres. So we're going to do our 8 centimetre arc from the right hand side, and we're going to put the point of the compass here. And it should be like that. And you can see where the two arcs overlap, which is here. And we can join these up with straight lines. And it says to measure the angle x, so we're going to need a protractor for this bit. I'm going to put our protractor here with the crosshairs matching here. So we're going to be looking at the inside, the outside one, and it comes up as 37 degrees. So our answer is 37 degrees. So whenever we have a scatter graph, chances are we'll be drawing a line of best fit. And so that's what we'll start off with, draw a line of best fit in. And it says we're looking for a height of the box, or an estimate of the height of the box with the width of 17. So 17 is here. So the width of 17 will be a line across, let's try and get this just right, line across there. And what we do is we draw a line down when it hits the line of best fit. Now looking at the scale here, this seems to be going up in 2s, and so this line here would be at 3. To find average speed, we need to do the total distance and then all we need to do is divide that by the total time. So in this question, the two distances are 90 kilometres and 63 kilometres. So we need to do 90 plus the 63 and divide that by the total time. So that's the 5 hours plus the 4 hours. And so that would be 153 divided by 9, which will give us 17. So the answer will be 17. The distance is in kilometres and the time is in hours, so it'd be 17 kilometres per hour. So we have a set of vertically opposite angles here and here. And we're going to start with those because we have to find out what m is before we can work out what x is. And vertically opposite angles are always equal, so we've got 13m plus 39 is going to equal 2m plus 149. And we're going to get our lines in there because we're going to solve this. And to solve this, we first of all take away the smaller amount of m because we've got m's on both sides. We can't really cope with that when we're solving. And so we've got a 13m and a 2m. So we're going to remove the 2m. We're going to take that away from both sides to start off. And so we're left with 11m plus 39, and we've just got the 149 on the right hand side. Next we're going to remove the number, so take away 39 from both sides, and we've got 11m is equal to 110, and then we're going to divide both sides by 11 to find out what m is. So m therefore equals 10. So we know if m equals 10, we can then work out x, and the way we can do that is the fact that this one and this one are both on a straight line, so they are both on this straight line here. So we know that they've got to add up to 180. So let's write that down. 13m plus 39 plus x is equal to 180 degrees, or I don't normally put that in for the working out, I always put that in for the answer. So we can solve this, or well, first of all we know what m is, so it'd be 13 times n, which is 130, and then we can solve this. So let's get my solving lines in, and so that's going to be 169 plus x equals 180, and we're going to just take that away from both sides of the 169. So we've got x equals 11. So the value of x will be 11 degrees. We're going to start off by finding what the multiplier will be. So we'll start off with 100%, and it's a decrease of 32.6%. So we're going to take that away, and that will leave the percentage as 67.4%. Next we need to convert that into a decimal. So we're going to divide it by 100, and that will make it into a multiplier. And the beauty about a multiplier is all we need to do is get the amount from the question, 486, and times it by the multiplier, and it will do all the hard work for us, and it will give us the answer of 327.56. The area of a trapezium is found using the formula area equals half a plus b times h. Now a plus b are quite easy to find because they are the parallel sides in the trapezium, which are these two. It doesn't matter which way around we label them. I'm going to say a is the right hand one and b is, or left hand one, and b is this right hand one. Then h always hits a and b at 90 degrees. So if we have a look at some of these lengths, this length at the top here is touching the A and B at an acute angle for A and an obtuse angle for B, so that is definitely not the height. This length here, same thing, it's hitting the A at an acute angle and B at an obtuse angle, so that is not the height. The height is actually going to be this length here, because you can see it hits both A and B at 90 degrees. So let's fill this into our formula. So it's going to be half times A, which is 8.7, plus B, which is 5.3, and then times that by the height, which is 2.4. That's going to be half times 14 times 2.4. That's going to be 7 times 2.4. And then that will be 16.8. All the units in the diagram are in centimetres, so our area will be centimetres squared. To work out the area of this shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the area of the big rectangle that is, it's almost a big rectangle, and I'm going to take away the area of this small little bit at the bottom. And I'm going to label this big rectangle A, and this little rectangle here B. So to work out the area of A, we're going to do 9.8, which is the width, times the length, which is 5.6. And that will give us 54.88. Now to work out B, we actually have a bit missing. We need to work out what the length of this bit here is. So in fact, let's just choose a different colour just so it shows up a bit more, this length here. So we're going to work out the length of this, and we'll call this C just to make things easier. So to work out the length of C, we're going to do the total length across of this whole shape, which is 9.8, and take away the bits that we know, which is the 4.3 and the 1.2. So we're going to do 4.3 plus 1.2, take that away from 9.8, and when I do that I get the answer of 4.3, and that's a coincidence that it's the same as the left hand one. So we know that that's 4.3, so we can work out the area of rectangle B, and all we're going to do for that is the 4.3 we've just found times the 2.4, because it's obviously a length of 2.4. When I do that I get 10.32. Now to work out the area of the whole shape, so the area of the rectangle, all we need to do is the area of A take away the area of B. So the area of A was 54.88, and we're going to take away the 10.32, and that gives us a 44.56. And all the units are in centimetres, so our units for the area will be centimetres squared. So what we did was we found out the total area, which is the whole area of this shape here, and we took away the bit we didn't want, which is the area of this rectangle here. When I do that, I get the area of the bit I do want, which is all of this rectangle but without that B at the bottom. And this is a really important way of working this out, that you work out the whole thing and take away the bits that you don't want. So we have an original amount, and this represents 100% of the original amount. The new price, or new amount, represents 113%. because it has said that it has gone up by 13%. So it has increased by 13%. And as a value, that increase is £1,287. So it's 13% of the original. It's gone up 13% of the original price. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out what 1% of the price increase is. Instead of 13%, we're going to work out what 1% is. And we're going to do that by dividing the amount by 13, and we get 99. So 1% represents £99. So 1% of the original represents £99. But the new amount is 113%. So we need to times the £99 by 113, which gives us £11,187. So the picture is now worth £11,187. I'm going to start by just labelling the missing angles on each of the triangles. So we've got a missing angle here, which is 40, because we're going to take away 105 and 35 from 180. And we've got a missing angle here, which is 35 degrees. Again, taking away 105 and 40 from 180. So the tempting answer is to say that G is 2 meters because they're both at the bottom of the shape. But have a look at where 2 meters is and have a look at where G is. G is between 35 degrees and 105 degrees. It's the length between those two angles. Well, the 2 meters is between the 105 degrees, but the 2 meters is between the 40 degrees and the 105 degrees. So if we look at this left-hand triangle and see where the 35 degrees is, it's up here. So actually the corresponding lengths are this one and this one. And because they're congruent triangles, we know that the lengths are going to be the same. Integer just means whole number. So we're looking for all the whole numbers that satisfy these two inequalities. Well, the first inequality says that it has to be greater than 3. So the smallest number that is greater than 3 is 4. The second inequality says it has to be less than or equal to 8. So I'm just going to keep going till I get to a number that is less than or equal to 8. It can't be 9 because 9 is not less than or equal to 8. So our answer is 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. The formula y equals mx plus c includes this m, and the m means the gradient. So if we're looking for something that is parallel to y equals 9x plus 18, we're looking at this number here. And for it to be parallel, it needs to have the same gradient. So we could just write y equals 9x plus or subtract anything. Or we could just write y equals 9x. I'm going to say plus 5. So when we say y is directly proportional to x, what we mean is whenever x doubles, y will double. Whenever x halves, y will halve. Now, we've got this proportionality sign here. And to make that an equals, all we need to do is introduce a k constant to the right-hand side. So it's y equals something times x. Now to find out what that something is, to find out what that constant is, what we're going to do is feed in the value of y and the value of x that we have. So we're going to feed those in. So y is 55.3 and x is 7. So it would be 7k. And we're just going to put our lines in and solve this. So it's going to be divide by 7 both sides. And 55.3 divided by 7 is 7.9. And that's what k is. So we're going to rewrite this equation here, this formula here, y equals 7.9x. And that is actually our answer. So we know that the exterior angle is equal to 360 divided by the amount of sides, which we can just call n. And something you can do is actually just swap these two things around. And we can say that the n, the amount of sides, is 360 divided by the exterior angle for a regular polygon. So we just do 360 divided by 5, and that gives us 72. So we know that James knows that he has a square, so we can actually get rid of all of this bit. It's not relevant at all to the question. And the question asks, what is the probability that the square is blue? Well, there are 3 blue squares, so it will be 3 over, and how many are there in total? Well, it says the total is 17. So the answer is 3 over 17. So the only way of answering this question is to work out what these are as ordinary numbers. And so 7 times 10 to the power of 7 would be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 9 times 10 to the power of 4 would be 90,000. So that would be 9, 0, 0, 0, 0. And so we're just subtracting them like that. And so we'll get 6, 9, 9, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. And obviously if this is on the calculator paper, just type it into your calculator. There are no tricks here. You can't do anything with the 7 and the 9. You're not subtracting powers or anything. You're just literally typing in what it says. And there's a button on the calculator like that that you will need to use. So if you don't know what that is, ask your teacher or ask someone to help you out with that. Go do a multiplication grid. And we're going to start by putting the x plus 12 at the top, so x, and then we've got 12, and the x plus 5 down the bottom, or down the side. So we're going to times these together, so x times x is x squared, x times 12 is positive 12x, x times 5 is positive 5x, and 5 times 12 is obviously positive 60. Put the terms together, and we notice that we've got 2 x terms there that we can add together. So we've got the 12x there and the 5x there. So when we add those together, we get 17x, and that's our answer. So our answer is x squared plus 17x plus 60. So we're given 21 to 4 is the ratio. We're just going to have our lines in. because what we need to do is make the left hand side be 1. Okay. And to do that, for 21 I need to divide it by itself, divide it by 21, and we're going to do the same to the right hand side. So 21 divided by 21 is 1, perfect, that's what we wanted. 4 divided by 21 is 0.190 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it's going to be 1 to 0.19. The volume of any prism is found by working out the area of the cross section and timesing it by the length. So we're given the cross section here is 92, and the length is basically how 3D the prism is, so that's going to be times 4, so that's going to be 368, so 368 centimeters cubed. So for this frequency polygon, what we've got to do is work backwards to work out what the table was that created it. So we're going to just draw a starting of a table, and we're going to have our midpoint first, then our like money spent, our intervals, and then our frequency. So the first midpoint is at 40, and we can see here that that was, just get rid of that, that was between, like that was in this group here. So that is 0, and I'm just going to use M for money, 0 to 80, and the frequency is how high it is, which is 10. The next midpoint is here, so that was going to be 120. And we can see that that's between 80 and 160, and the frequency is 20. And finally the last midpoint is here, which is obviously 200, and that is between 160 and 240, and the height of it is going to be 7. So we're looking for the probability customer spent less than 160. So that is these two here. Okay, so there are 30 that are less than 160. And how many are there altogether? Well, it's that 10 plus the 20 plus the 7. So it's going to be over 37. So it's 30 over 37. To answer this question, I'm going to do a quick number line, and I'm going to put the 12 meters on my number line, and I'm going to think what the next number down would be that it could have rounded to. Well, it's 10 to the nearest meter, so the next number it could have rounded to is 11, and to find the minimum it could have been before rounding to 12, all we need to do is find the halfway point between 11 and 12, which is obviously going to be 11.5. So our answer is 11.5 meters. So we're just going to substitute the values that were given into the formula. So v squared equals, and then u is 16.4 squared plus 2 times a, which is 0.2, times s, which is 110.2. Type that into the calculator and you get 313.039 blah blah blah. And what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly solve this by square rooting both sides, because it's v squared equals and we just want v equals. So v equals, and we're just going to square root that on the calculator, 17.692 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that's just going to be 17.69. With these questions, what we need to do is write down what we're given in the question. So it says that the car accelerates at 6 meters per second squared. So we've got the acceleration, which is 6 meters per second squared. And I'm using the same letters as it has in the question here. It says for 21 seconds, so we've got the time, which is here. So the time is 21 seconds. Now, there is also something else it gives us, because it says from rest. So the initial velocity is going to be 0, and it asks us to find the final velocity. So we're looking for what v is. So we're looking to see which of the three formulae at the top involve an A, a T, a U, and a V. So it's not going to be this one because this has an S. It's not going to be this one because this has an S. It's going to be the top one. So what we do is we write down the top one, V equals U plus AT. And we're looking for V, so I'm going to keep V as a V. U is 0 plus A, which is 6, times T, which is 21. 6 times 21 is 126. Obviously 0 plus 126 is just 126. The units are meters and seconds throughout, so it's going to be 126 meters per second. So first thing to realise is that the formula for a volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So what we need to do first of all is work out the volume of the water butt that James currently has. So we're going to do the volume equals pi times the radius, which is 89 squared, times the height, which is 189. And when we do that, we get 1497,069 lots of pi. And I'll keep this in terms of pi just for simplicity. Now, what we want is we want the volume to stay the same. So we're going to keep that as the volume, 1497,069 pi. But we want the radius to change. So instead of the radius being 89, we want the radius to be 103. So times 103 squared. And we're trying to work out what the height is. Okay, so first thing we can do actually is just cross off the pi's from both sides. We don't really need them at all. And then we can get our solving things in, our solving lines, and we can divide both sides by the 103 squared. And on the left hand side we get 141.113 blah blah blah, and on the right hand side we get h. So the height will be 141.113. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that would be 141.11. There is quite an easy way of doing this question, but I'm going to show you the long way and then we're going to work out what the quicker way is. So I'm going to pair up the A and the 1, which it suggests in the question. Then I'm going to work out the A and the 2 as a different combination, A3, A4, etc. Then I'm going to look at the B and do the same thing, B1, B2, B3, etc. Then I'm going to work out the C, so all the combinations with C. So how many combinations are there with A? Well, there's going to be 7 because there's 7 numbers. How many with B? Well, there's also going to be 7. And how many with C? Well, there's also going to be 7. So in total, there's going to be 7 plus 7 plus 7, which is 21. And the way I can work that out easily is work out how many combinations there are with spinner 1. Well, there's 3. How many combinations there are with spinner 2? 7. And we just times the 2 together. 3 times 7 is 21. This question seems a lot harder than it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by rewriting the prime factors, but without the squared. So 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. I'm going to do the same with the other lists as well. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 11. Now I'm going to put these into a Venn diagram. And so I'm just going to draw out a Venn diagram and get my 2 circles, because we're going to have the 450 and the 132. So 450 is on the left hand side and 132 is on the right hand side. And we're going to start just filling out the Venn diagram. So they both have a 2 in them and they both have a 3, but 450 has a 3, a 5 and a 5. And 132 has that 2 and the 11. Now to find the lowest common multiple, what you do is you just multiply all these numbers together, and that will give you the lowest common multiple. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 times 5 times 5, which are the numbers on the left, times 2 times 3, which are the numbers in the middle, times 2 times 11. And when we do that, we get 9,900, and that's it. So our answer is 9,900. So I'm going to start just by writing out the equation, and I can put my lines in. Okay, we're asked to make x the subject, so we're going to first of all add 10 to both sides. In fact, I'm just going to move all this over a little bit so I've got a bit more space. Okay, so we're left with m plus 10 on the left hand side, and we've got 1/7 x on the right hand side. Now to get rid of the 1/7, what I can do is just times both sides by 7. So 7 brackets m plus 10 equals x. So x therefore would equal 7 brackets m plus 10, but it says expand your answer fully, so we just go expand the brackets, 7m plus 70. So we're told that y is directly proportional to x, and so the first thing I'm going to do is replace that proportionality sign with an equals, and to do that we need to introduce k. So y equals kx, so you just multiply the right hand side by k. Then I'm going to substitute the values it's given us. So it says to us that when x is 5, y is 4.5. So when y is 4.5, and then we've got x is 5. Then I'm just going to quickly solve that, get my lines in, and divide both sides by 5. And so that's going to be 0.9 equals k. So k is 0.9. So I go back to the equation, and instead of y equals kx, I know that y equals 0.9x. Now k is a constant, which means it will never change, so it's always going to be 0.9. So to find the value of x when y is 5.4, I'm just going to replace y with 5.4, and just a matter of solving again. So get my lines in, and what I'm going to do is just divide both sides by the 0.9 to find out what x is. And when I do that, I find that x is 6. So we're going to write out the question again, just to give us a bit more space. And we're going to put in our tram lines so we can solve it. Now we're going to solve this in exactly the same way as if it was an equation with an equals in the middle. One slight difference though is if you times or divide by a negative, you've got to flip the sign, but hopefully we won't do that. Now the rule when you've got an x's on both sides is you get rid of the smaller amount. So we're going to get rid of that 4x from both sides. We're going to take away 4x both sides. And so we're going to have 3x plus 8 is greater than 23. And then we're just going to solve this normally. So take away 8 both sides. And that will give us 3x is greater than 15. And then we're going to divide the 3 both sides. And that will be x is greater than 5. I'm just going to write the question out so we've got a little bit bigger writing to play with here. And it doesn't actually matter which method you expand these brackets with. I'm going to use Smiles and Rainbows. So we multiply the 8 by the 10x, which will make 80x, and multiply the 8 by the 4, which will make 32. Now here we've got a minus 5 on the outside, so we do minus 5 times 8x, which is minus 40x, and minus 5 times minus 4, which is actually plus 20. And a lot of students will write take away 20 there, but that is a minus 5 on the outside of the brackets there. So it's minus 5 times the minus 4 there will give you a plus 20. Then 80x take away 40x, which will give us 40x. And 32 plus 20, which would be 52. So our answer would be 40x plus 52. So factorise means to put it into a bracket, and it looks like it's a quadratic here, but it's actually just a linear factorising because we don't have a number term. So we're going to just use one bracket for this. And looking at these terms, I'm going to focus first on the numbers. So 20 and 30, I can divide both of those by 10, and that will leave 2 and 3. So that's the numbers done. Next, I'm looking at the t terms. So we've got t squared there and a t there. So we can divide out a t, but that will leave a t on the first term. And finally, I'm going to look at the u, and there's just a u on both of them. I can factorise out, and actually that just leaves nothing on the inside of the bracket. Now, always when you do this, expand the bracket to check if you've made any mistakes. So I'm going to do smiles and rainbows. There's loads of different methods. So 10 times 2 is 20, t times t is t squared, and then the u, plus 10 times 3 is 30, times t times u. So we know we've got the right answer. So our answer is 10tu brackets 2t plus 3. Okay, let's just do a quick sketch of the graph. And we've got coordinate c is at 213, so we're going to say that's roughly there. And that's c, and that's at 213. And then we've got d, which is at coordinates 8, 4. And we're just asked to find the length of the line segment, so this length here. Now what I can do is I can draw in a right angle triangle here, like so. And we've got the right angle there. And we actually know 2 of the lengths. So if it's 13 high for C and then 4 high for D, that means that this length here is going to be 9. The x coordinates are 2 to 8, and so that's a difference of 6. So, and we're looking for the last one. So with Pythagoras, we are going to label the sides. And so we've got A here, we've got B here, and then C has to be the one opposite the right angle. And we're just going to write out the formula, which is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And A we've said is 9, and B we've said is 6. And so when you do that, you get, what, 117. Then we're going to just quickly solve it by square rooting both sides. And so we're going to square root 117, which is 10.816 blah blah blah. And it says it wants 2 decimal places, so our answer will be 10.82. So I'm going to write the question out. So y equals x plus 15. And we're told that we want to make x the subject to the formula. Now what that means is we want x on its own. What's stopping x from being on its own? This plus 15. So to get rid of it, we do the inverse, the opposite of plus 15 to both sides. Take away 15. So we end up with having y minus 15 on the left-hand side, and we've got rid of the plus 15, so we've just got x on the right-hand side. So x is equal to y minus 15. The word truncated means that we just literally cut off the next number along. So if we imagine this is our number, we just cut it off. So it's not the same as rounding. We just don't change this digit at all. We just cut off the remaining digits. So the smallest number it could be before it was cut off is 79.500000. The largest number it could have been, well, it could have been 79.5999, etc. So that's the largest it could have been. So to do our error interval, well, the smallest it could have been is 79.5, and it could have been 79.5, and we'll call this x. But we're looking at any number that is less than 79.6. So any number that's less than 79.6. If it was 79.6, then when we cut it off, it would show as 79.6. Acceleration is change in velocity over change in time. So change in velocity where it starts at 0 and goes up to 150. So that would be 150 over the change in times. Well, the time starts at 0 and goes up to 5, so that's 5. And so 150 divided by 5 is 30. The velocity is in meters per second, the time's in seconds, so the units will be meters per second squared. So it's 30 meters per second squared. So I'm just going to write this question out just a bit bigger so we can see it a bit better. Okay, so we've got numbers and we've got letters. Let's focus on the numbers first. We've got 77 over 11. So 77 divided by 11 is just 7. So the answer will just be 7 with the numbers. And here we've got x to the power of 11 divided by x to the power of 6. When you divide powers we're of the same base and they're both x, you take them away. So you do 11 take away 6, which is 5. So the first thing I ask myself is what has happened to this shape? Well, it's actually changed size. So we are looking at an enlargement. And the next thing I need is the scale factor. So the scale factor is, well, let's have a look at the squares at the bottom. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's changed to 2. So 4 times what is 2? Well, that's going to be a half. So it's actually halved. And the last thing I need is the center of enlargement. And those are coordinates. Now to find those coordinates, we join up our two triangles. Let's try and get a good, there we go. And we just join up like for like points. So I'm going to join up the two tops. And I'm going to join up the two right angle parts. And I'm going to join up the bottom right part as well. And you notice that they all cross at this coordinate here, and that's actually our center of enlargement, so that's going to be 8 minus 7. So the first thing I notice is the second equation isn't really in the normal format for doing simultaneous equations, so I'm just going to rearrange it so that we have it where we want it to be. And I'm just going to put my lines in so I can rearrange. So first thing I want is I want the x's and y's on the same side. In fact, actually all I need to do is take away 4y from both sides and we get 5x minus 4y equals minus 7. Okay, so what we do now is we put both our equations down. So we can solve these simultaneously. So 5x minus 4y equals minus 7. And you notice the coefficient of the y is already the same, so we don't need to multiply anything. But the signs are different, and the d in different is the d in add. So we're going to add going downwards. So we're going to add everything. So we're doing 3x plus 5x, which is 8x. 4y plus minus 4y is nothing, which is good, because we want to get rid of that. And 47 take away 7 is 40. All right, let's put our solving lines in. And we're going to divide by 8 both sides. So we get x equals 5. And we're going to substitute that value into one of the equations. I'm going to pick this top one. So instead of 3x, we're doing 3 times 5 plus 4y equals 47. Get my solving lines in. So that will be 15 plus 4y equals 47. And then we're going to take away the 15 both sides. And so it's 4y equals 47 take away 15, which is 32. Divide by 4 both sides, and we get y equals 8. Now we can check that using this equation here. So 5 times 5 was 25. Take away 4 times 8, which is 32, is minus 7. So we know we've got it right. So what's happened here is that the company's increased the amount of sweets by 15%. So we're just going to focus on that and work out what the multiplier would be first. So they started off with 100% and they added 15%, and then therefore they ended up with 115%. And to find that as a multiplier, we get the 115 and divide it by 100, and that gives us 1.15. So that is the multiplier they used. Now they used that multiplier on the original amount, and they times it by 1.15, and they got the answer of 69. But if we're working the other way to find out what they times by 1.15, we get that 69 and we divide it by the multiplier. So if we want to work out what the original number was, we divide it by the multiplier, and that gives us 60. So the answer will be 60. So we're going to start off with 100%, and it says that the card depreciates. That means goes down by, so it goes down by 1.7% every year. So we do 100 take away 1.7, which is 98.3, and that's percent. And we want that as a decimal, or as a multiplier we call it. And so we just divide it by 100 to make it into a decimal, 0.983. And that's our multiplier. And the beautiful thing about a multiplier is we just need the amount of years. Well, it says from 1980 to 1985, so that's going to be 5 years. So it's going to be 5 years. And so what we do is we get the original amount, which was 2,245, and times it by the multiplier 5 times. Now I can't be bothered on my calculator to times it by 0.983 5 times. So what you can do is you can do it to the power of 5, which basically means the same thing. And that gives us 2060.553. And when we round that, that would be £2,060 and 55 pence. So we've got a right angle triangle here, and it involves two lengths and an angle. So we know we're going to be using trigonometry for this. And first step of trigonometry is labelling the sides. So the one opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse, the one opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Now notice there's not a number or a letter next to the adjacent, so we can cross that out straight away. Next thing we're going to do is draw our triangles for SOHCAHTOA. So I'm going to have SOHCAHTOA, and we've crossed out the A, so we're going to cross out the Ka and the Toa because they both involve an A. That leaves SO, and SO is short for sine x, or sine the angle, equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the angle is 83, so it's going to be sine 83 equals the opposite, which we've labelled as x, over 7.9. Then we can put our solving lines in, and all we need to do here is times both sides by 7.9. And be careful when you do sine 83 times 79. Most calculators open a set of brackets when you type in sine, cos or tan, so make sure you close them after you type in times 7.9. And when you do that, you get 7.841 blah 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 equals x, and so rounding that to 2 decimal places is 7.84. There are two shapes we need to find the volume of. There's this cylinder here and this hemisphere here. So we might as well start with this cylinder. And the formula for the volume is pi times r squared times height. So it's the radius is 9, so 9 squared times the height, which is 30. And when we work that out, we get 7,634.070, blah, blah, blah. Next is the hemisphere. To find the volume of the hemisphere, well, the volume of a sphere is 4/3 times pi times r cubed, but because it's a hemisphere we just times that by a half. So it's half times 4/3 times pi times r, which is the radius, which is 9 cubed, and that gives us 1526.814 blah blah blah. And so the total volume is 7634.070 blah 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 plus the 1526.814 blah blah blah, which equals 9160.884 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so when we round that we get 9160.88. So we've got to first of all realise that these triangles are similar, so we can work up what the scale factor is. We need 2 corresponding sides, which I'm just going to pick these top ones, and we're going to work out the scale factor from those. Now the scale factor is how to get from the smaller to the bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 91 divided by 13, which is 7. So we know we times 7 to get from the small to the big. Now here we've got a problem because we're actually going from the big to the small. And when we go the opposite way around, so instead of times 7, we're going to divide by 7. So on our calculator we do 126 divided by 7, and we get the answer 18. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our OnMaths site. OnMaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.